All right, let's dive into a really fascinating idea from our source material today. We're going to explore a fundamental principle that, believe it or not, might just govern both harmony and conflict in our world.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if there was one universal force, kind of like a current, and the outcome, peace or conflict, all depended on how we interact with it? Well, our source material goes deep on this very question. So, this central concept is called the word, and honestly, the best way to wrap your head around it is to think of it like electricity. When you've got a clear connection, what we could call acceptance, that power just flows, no problem. But the moment you introduce resistance, what happens? Pressure builds up. Now, the power doesn't just vanish, it changes. It manifests in a totally different way. And let's be clear, this is not some gentle, passive energy we're talking about. This quote from the source really drives home its incredible power. It can be a fire that refines, or it can be a hammer that has enough force to literally shatter stone. The power itself doesn't change. It's our response to it that determines the impact we feel. Now, this whole dynamic isn't just some abstract theory. According to the text, it's a foundational choice, one that's been playing out from the very beginning. And it's all illustrated through a powerful story of two completely opposite paths. To make this real and tangible, the source points us to the story of two brothers, Jacob and Esau. You could say their lives are the perfect illustration of the two possible ways to respond to this divine current. And look at this. The two paths are laid out with such stark clarity. On one side, you've got Jacob. Now, he wasn't a perfect guy, but he wanted the promise. He even wrestled for it, right? He was actively engaged. But on the other side, you've got Esau, who is the picture of resistance. He despised his inheritance, and he traded something eternal for something that would satisfy him for just a moment. It's acceptance versus resistance, plain and simple. And this isn't just some dusty old story. It's presented as a universal human condition. You have two seeds, two ways, but only one word, one current. The choice, as the source frames it, is fundamentally a choice between life and death. And that's why this matters. It's a choice that's put before every single one of us. So if this conflict is so foundational, so built into the system, how in the world does it ever get resolved? Well, the text introduces a central figure who doesn't just pick a side. No, he actually embodies and completes the entire dynamic. The source introduces this really unique figure as the Messiah, which just means the anointed one, someone set apart for a divine purpose. And what makes this figure so unique, it says, is that he alone held authority over both the flow of acceptance and the pressure of resistance, without being corrupted by either one. And the real mystery here is that he holds all these seemingly contradictory titles in perfect unity. I mean, think about it. He's both the conquering lion and the sacrificed lamb, the ruling king and the humble servant, the final judge and the merciful redeemer. This isn't confusion, it's completion. It's the whole picture in one person. And here's the absolute key to how he resolves the conflict. He fully stepped into that state of resistance, what the text calls the fallen condition, but he never once gave into it. By absorbing all of that pressure without breaking, he essentially condemned the very principle of resistance from the inside out. So we've seen this dynamic play out in this huge historical story, but the source makes it really clear that this is also a deeply personal, internal struggle. And this is where it becomes very real for each and every one of us. Now get this. This powerful quote reframes the word. It's not just a hammer, it's also like a surgeon's scalpel with incredible precision. The text says it's sharp enough to divide between soul, that's our mind, our will, our emotions, and spirit, our absolute deepest self. That's a distinction that, let's be honest, we usually can't make for ourselves. So why this internal cut? What's the point? It's to address that constant war going on inside us. The source calls this the flesh lusting against the spirit, which is really just the personal, day-to-day experience of that very same resistance to the divine flow that we've been talking about this whole time. So, you see, this cutting isn't about destruction at all. It's actually a restorative process. The word comes in, it precisely separates what's been all tangled up and mixed together inside of us. It removes the root of the resistance. And in doing that, it brings us back to a state of wholeness, of oneness. Okay, so if this internal resistance can actually be removed, what's the end goal? I mean, what does that ultimate state of pure, unhindered flow even look like? Well, according to the source, this ultimate state is governed by love, and it's all rooted in this core declaration: Yahweh, our Elohim, Yahweh is one. Now, in the text, Yahweh is the personal name for God, and Elohim is a title, like creator. So this is a foundational statement about oneness. And from that single point, everything else flows. Love the Creator with everything you have, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And this is where it all comes together. The logic just flows perfectly, you see, where love is perfected.
Resistance simply can't exist anymore. Perfect love is the ultimate state of acceptance. There's nothing to push against. And naturally, where there is no more resistance,
the flow is complete. We're right back to that initial idea of electricity, but now it's a perfect, frictionless current. And what's the ultimate result of that perfectly unhindered flow? The source calls it freedom from the law of sin and death, which is its name for the entire system of resistance and all its destructive consequences. Which leaves all of us with a final question to really think about. If this word is a divine current, it's worth asking ourselves, where are the points of friction in my own life? Where am I the one creating pressure by resisting that flow?